The LBG, I have no problem with with nobody. Okay,
Right.
love who you love, do what you do.
Exactly.
I just personally come from an era where a man was a man and a woman was a woman, and it wasn't but two genders, and that's just how I rocked.
But I want people to understand why Neo apologized. Neo apologized because he had stuff to lose. What up, YouTube? H-Star going to be talking about the hot water that Neo's been in regards to his comments about the LGBTQ plus community, specifically the comments he made in regards to genders and his apology that came after.
The LBG, I have no problem with with nobody. Okay,
Right.
love who you love, do what you do.
Exactly.
I just personally come from an era where a man was a man and a woman was a woman, and it wasn't but two genders, and that's just how I rocked.
Me
now,
too.
You could identify as a goldfish if you feel like.
Right.
I don't care. That ain't my business. It becomes my business when you try to make me play the game with you. I'm not finna call you a
Right.
goldfish, but
Exactly.
you want to be a goldfish, you go be a goldfish. It's all good.
Amen.
If your little boy comes to you and says, "Daddy, I want to be a girl," and you just let him rock with that, you just let.
Right.
He's 5.
Right. And where did he get that
If
from?
you let this 5-year-old boy decide to eat candy all day, he's gonna do that.
Exactly.
Like when did it become a good idea to let a 5-year-old, let a 6-year-old, let a 12-year-old make a life-changing decision for themselves?
Right.
When did that happen?
Right.
Like I don't understand that.
And after the backlash that was received, he did take to Twitter to issue his apology. After much reflection, I'd like to express my deepest apologies to anyone that I may have hurt with my comments on parenting and gender identity. I've always been an advocate for love and inclusivity in the LGBTQI plus community. So I understand how my comments could have been interpreted as insensitive and offensive. Gender identity is nuanced, and I can honestly admit that I plan to better educate myself on the topic so I can approach future conversations with more empathy. At the end of the day, I lead with love and support everyone's freedom of expression and pursuit of happiness. Now, I would like to say there was a bit of outrage as to why Neo apologized, but I want people to understand why Neo apologized. Neo apologized because he had stuff to lose. Y'all got to understand how this game works. If you're someone who has connections with certain people who are tied to certain companies, or if you're financially tied to certain companies who give you funding, who give you endorsements and brand deals that's worth millions, you're not going to jeopardize millions of dollars and just leave that on the table. You would therefore issue an apology. I'm kind of surprised his PR team didn't tap him on the shoulder and tell him to be careful about the subject matter, what he's about to speak on, if he even brought it to their attention. And we can all debate whether or not if this apology is sincere or just someone to kind of save the bag, if you will, as like a last-ditch effort. Now, I will go on record to say, I think that there is, in fact, more than two genders. Now, I'm not going to do anything crazy and say there's like 10, 20, 30 gender combinations. I'm not going to do all that. But I'll at least concede and be like, you know what? I do think there is a third gender. Trans. That to me is definitely a gender. People who go from transitioning from a man into a woman or from a woman into a man, they're either a transgender man or a transgender woman. They're not inherently a man. They're not inherently a woman. They're both trans. And then you would also have to consider the extremely small population of people who is genetically born trans, which is way less than 1%. And the vast majority of trans people are people who chose to identify either as a man or a woman, or chose to go under the knife to get a whole complete different operation. I can understand the point he made about like a 5 or 6-year-old trying to identify as a boy or girl, because that is far too young of an age for a child to even really try to, guess their identity or something like that. And you would also have to question, who the hell is around my kid to be putting that in their young mind? And as a 5 or 6-year-old, and thankfully most 5, 6-year-olds don't be worried about gender identity. They probably be more worried about playing in the mud or just playing with toys or getting into all types of nefarious activities that normal 5-6-year-olds do. But I would argue that the older they get and they start to want to look for themselves, try to find who they are, when they're typically like when they're in high school, like throughout their high school years, it would make sense to kind of like, all right, they're trying to look for themselves, trying to find out who they really are. And they're going to need all the support they can get from the ones that they care about the most at home. They want the people that's closest to them to be able to accept them and respect their decisions. So to me, if somebody wants to go through some type of transition in high school or when they're out of high school, to me, that makes a bit more sense because they're still trying to find themselves, trying to find out who they are, as opposed to doing it at the age of 5 and 6. But y'all let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Till next time, it's been H-Dog here, and I'm out. Peace.